Good morning, Stephen. Thanks for joining us today. Before we kick off, it would be really useful if you could just provide us with a little bit of context and maybe a bit about your experience within the field of research commercialization and maybe creation of spinouts. So yeah, it'd be great to have a quick introduction.
Sure. Okay. Good morning, Carla. So I'm Steve. I originally studied electrical and communication engineering at university, and I very shortly moved into fixed telecommunications and then joined what was to become Orange mobile phones in the early 1990s. And whilst at Orange, I created the first 2G network amongst my colleagues and spent the majority of my career in the last kind of 30 years in mobile comms. For the last 8 to 10 years, I've pivoted more into supporting spinouts from universities. So primarily through the UK TIN project and through the ICURE program, where I help academics take that idea all the way through to ideation, through the spin-out process, and help them to understand any possible pitfalls and challenges they might have along the way. And over that journey, I think I've supported over 50 spin-outs through to completion of their business.
Amazing, that's fantastic. So it's great to have you with us today to talk all about this subject. So thanks once again. So we'll kick off.
Sure.
Yeah. So what's the most common challenges we see when translating scientific discovery into real world applications or commercial ventures?
Sure. I think there's probably two main challenges from my perspective, Carla. I think the first is making sure that the academics understand the distinction between features and benefits. That's probably the most common issue I see. And what I mean by that, they might have a very nice bit of technical science or a very clever bit of IP, but they're only really kind of solving a technical problem, and they're not understanding how that creates some business value or some business impact to their end customer groups and end user groups. So let me give you an example. I've worked with a company which discovered by analysing a very type of specific protein in a blood, they're able to determine the kind of predilection for that patient having a heart attack. So they had the science there, that it's very clear what they needed to do, but they found it difficult to translate that into commercial benefit. And what we managed to work with them was to understand that through their analysis, they're able to have a handheld device which detected as protein. And it didn't mean that the bloods had to go to the labs. So it meant that they were able to do point of care analysis of the likelihood of a heart attack in a patient. And that was taking a matter of hours rather than days for that blood sample to come back. Now, working with them, we then had to translate that into some sort of business benefit, and by virtue of the benefit to the NHS. What that came up with things like the hospital stays were much reduced. So the amount of cost per bed was reduced, say, from 3 days to 5 days. Also, it could be that the likelihood of readmission into hospital was much reduced. So the overall impact and cost of the NHS per patient was significant. I think we got it in the order of £10,000, £15,000 per patient was saved through the adoption of this technology. So I think the second problem is, once you've established that, is determining that the business problem you're trying to solve is significant enough. That's really important from two perspectives. Firstly, because it's got to be able to generate significant revenues for you and generate revenues at a suitable kind of profit margin to give that repeatable revenue per month. And also, if you are looking to seek investment or you're looking to seek to get public funding, you want to make sure that the problem is big enough and the market is big enough to elicit interest from your investor community to make sure that they will get their return on investment.
Yeah, some sound advice there. So with that in mind, where do we see the biggest gaps in that journey from research to market, and kind of how can we begin to address them more effectively?
Okay, well, we're taking it back more to a telecoms context. I think the world of telecommunications today is very, very complex, and the whole ecosystem is very, very challenging, particularly with the advent of 5G standalone in the cloud, because you've got multiple operators and multiple different vendors trying to offer an end-to-end solution. Examples of that could be kind of 5G private networks at port authorities or in smart factories. And you've no longer got one operator or one vendor bringing the end-to-end solution for their customer group, whether that be the port authority or a smart city. So what the kind of journey that the entrepreneurs would need to understand is they need to kind of foster those relationships across the entire ecosystem for them to be successful. And the first place they need to start is to understand their own core competencies about what they're really good at and what the real asset they're offering out to their community. And then by virtue, what are the gaps that they need to fill? So it could be access to supply chain, it could be access to talent that they don't have at the minute. It could be access to a lab or access to a facility or a test lab, which enables them to bring their solution to market. Now, where organisations such as UK TIN or the kind of federated hubs can help is that kind of signposting and that reference point and say, yeah, I know someone in this field, I know someone in supply chain. Yeah. I've got a really good contact at Digital Catapult or a really good contact at the satellite applications Catapult. So those things are really key because the network across the whole of those enterprises just mentioned is vast, Carla. So there's always somebody that we know that we can signpost the entrepreneurs to begin to foster the importance of that relationships and understand what gaps they need to fill and how they can go about that.
Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, so important to have those relationships in place.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So can you share any success stories or any lessons learned that might help researchers to navigate this commercialization process?
Yes, so I think again there's two, and I'd like, of course, to bring it into a telecoms context. Yeah. So any small company trying to break in, if they've got a desire to break into the major MNOs such as BT or Vodafone or Three, that's going to be significantly challenged for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because those organizations typically have a yearly kind of budget cycle and a yearly strategic cycle, which means that budget for the year ahead is set. So any new enterprise coming in, it's very, very difficult for them to kind of break in.
Yeah.
The second reason why it's so challenging for them, they've got no trading history. They're very high risk to the MNOs, and the MNOs are very kind of risk averse. They don't really want to be working with very small, unproven enterprises. Yeah. So what we've found is a good kind of case study here, is that to break into the big MNOs, you have to really work with existing vendors or existing partners of that MNO, or crucially, some of the system integrators. And there's many out there that provide services into the MNOs. And they're always on the lookout for some ways to enhance or tweak their offering in some way to give them a better end-to-end solution. And it might be that this vendor or this SI might prime into the MNO and you're kind of subcontracting into them. But it's a great way to break into the market. And then as you begin to establish yourself and begin to generate revenue, it might be then you can forge your own contract, your own direct relationship with the MNO.
Brilliant advice. Yeah.
And I think the second biggest gap, Carla, is the need to understand you'll need somebody in your team, either the CEO or the chair of the board, that has that very extensive relationships within the sector. So again, in the world of telecoms, you need to find someone who's done this before. They got that market reach. They understand the challenges and opportunities within that market. But crucially, they also have the vast kind of black book of contacts that they know who to reach, and they've got to establish relationships with the key decision makers of these organizations to help you kind of break into that market.
And again, it just comes full cycle back to that relationship piece. So
it's relationships, fostering relationships, and that's where the federated hubs can really help, because they have that vast network. They understand the pain points, and they can crucially signpost them into some organizations I mentioned before, such as Digital Catapult.
Yeah, perfect. So why is it so important then that this work reaches beyond the lab, and how can successful commercialization shape the wider society and future of telecoms?
No, it's a great question. I think it's again back to the world of getting ever more complex as we move into the 6G and kind of Gen AI solutions. It's going to get even more complicated about the vast number of different actors and network vendors which need to collaborate and work together, and bring in kind of fresh ideas and fresh approaches from research institutions. I think is really important to bring that fresh perspective. Most of the MNOs do have very strong research hubs. BT, for example, with a Dastral Park, and it's really important that those entrepreneurs from the high research universities begin to collaborate with those enterprises to get some very kind of niche offerings into market. But perhaps one of the other kind of biggest, I think, opportunities and biggest challenges facing telecoms at the moment is as we get more compute power and more services moving into the cloud and Gen AI, the kind of overall power consumption and the impact in the environment is absolutely significant. So any research organizations would have solutions in either the ability to do intelligent shutdown of redundant equipment or equipment which is in demand to save the power consumption of the operators is key, but also enabling to find more greener solutions providing power beyond kind of coal or gas. So it could be wind turbine, it could be hydro, it could be anything really which enables that offering of cleaner energy to the sector. And I think that's the biggest challenges facing the sector at the moment. The compute centers and the data centers are going to consume vast amounts of power and cooling over the next 5 to 10 years, and finding solutions to solve that problem will have a massive impact on the wider society and the future of telecoms as a whole.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, and that's actually some of the work that we're doing here in HASC, and in fact across all of the hubs. So, yeah.
Oh, very good. It's good. It's good to hear.
Yeah. And finally, then, what's the one thing you wish every early career researcher knew about working with industry?
Okay, well, I think I have two things, Carla, if that is okay. I think again, the importance of networking, and don't stay in the lab. All your customers and your user community are outside of the lab. So the sooner you can break out of the confines of your university and begin to network and find those relationships, the better. And the second advice I'd give, once you begin to get some traction, is more and more the importance of digital marketing to really promote your solution, promote the kind of wins and successes that you're having. So it could be through LinkedIn, it could be through any other media that begins to publicize all the great stuff you're doing and begin to sell outside of the confines of a university.
Yeah, so again, relationships, looking at benefits over features, and just really that profile piece and making sure that you're communicating what you're doing and real world impact, I guess.
Yes, and by virtue of having this strong digital marketing, you will begin to promote those relationships, because people respond to your posts. They want to network with you, they want to connect with you, and that will enable the fostering of the complex ecosystem I was describing before. Yeah,
perfect. Well, there's some amazing advice there, so thank you so much for your time. We're really grateful to you, and I'm sure it's masses of value there. So once again, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Carla.
We'll see you again. Thanks.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you. Thank you.